How's it sound? Hey everyone, my name is Nadia. Today we're going to be doing a pretty basic quarantine project for your room or your living room. Essentially what we'll be building is a coffee table or a bench. Now, I don't know right now if it's going to work as a bench because we're going to do a stress test pretty much with me sitting on it and seeing if it can withhold my weight. Anyway, since we have a lot of time given quarantine, I figured we can do a fun little project together. I've been sprucing up a lot of stuff around my place, doing a couple of DIYs, and I thought it would be really fun to share what I've been building and perhaps inspiring any others to start building with me. Quick clip of the space that the coffee table will live in. As you may notice from my background, this is the space. It's actually in addition to my bedroom. My bed is that away. So if I try to watch TV, I don't really have anything to put anything on. I have a small table on the far right hand side, but that's pretty much it. Don't mind Franklin. He's chilling. Another thing to keep in mind is we're going to try to be as budget friendly as possible. Essentially, I thought about just buying a coffee table, but when I realized some of the price ranges for some simple designs, I figured we can do it just as good ourselves, if not decent enough, within a more normal price range. What I'm using is I have an existing shelf that I had from like one of my old closets that I just don't need, so I took it out, and it's just a pretty nice solid piece of wood, and I'll be showing it in just a little bit. I also have hairpin legs, so you've probably seen this project everywhere. Tons of people just DIY their own coffee table, but I really did want to introduce a couple of things that you should be thinking about before you do this, especially price point. I have a lot of different price points that I identified because I wasn't sure whether I should just buy the product as is from an existing company or if it would be worth it for me to build it. At the end of the day, I realized that buying all of the materials, no matter what design I decided on, would still be cheaper than me buying an existing piece. And it'd kind of be fun. You have something to do for an afternoon during quarantine or maybe a weekend, and you can customize the piece the way you want it, which is pretty cool. In addition to price comparisons, we'll be walking you through every single step I did to create this piece. So you can follow along. There's also certain steps that you can skip. For instance, really depending on the tabletop that you purchased, do you even need to paint it? Do you even need to stain it? You could completely skip those steps if you want. Just buy a piece of wood or something that you have that already kind of looks the way that you want it to and stick some legs on it. So not super complicated, but I think if you're still considering to build this project, then this might be a little bit more insightful for you. So the first material I bought was the hairpin legs. There's tons of different leg options that you can use from Amazon or even Home Depot, but these are the hairpin legs that I chose. They're 16 inches tall, and the reason I chose these specifically is because it had this little cap included. You'll get the cap separately from the legs. You can see this is just the leg piece all together. It has a bunch of holes for screws. The reason I wanted this one with the caps is because I have wood floors, so I think it's important to consider whatever you build. If you put a lot of pressure on it, is it going to damage what's underneath? So these caps should be sufficient enough to protect my floors given they're plastic. I honestly probably could have just bought these separately from the legs and got a cheaper set, but it is what it is. It's fine. All right. The set also came with screws, so you have a little baggie of black screws. Okay. And the second material that I already had on hand, which actually inspired me to do this, was the wooden board. So here we have it. It's pretty large. It's 43 inches long, 1 inch thick, and a little bit less than 1 foot wide. It does have a stain already on it, but it's a little bit glossy. I do like this piece because it is sturdy, like full-on wood. It's not like an IKEA, those kind of sawdust that's smushed together to be a piece. It also has this cute little ledging detail that I really liked that I won't get rid of. One thing, in order to prepare this, I really could just use this and stick the legs on it and be okay with that, but I actually wanted to sand it and kind of just clean it up a little bit because there's some imperfections from where it's been sitting, some scratches and things that I kind of want to buffer out and make sure there's no like splintery material. Excuse the potato video quality. I wanted to give you guys a couple of screenshots of the specific products that I've used, as well as some examples that I found online of pieces you could buy that pretty much fit the bill of exactly what we're building. So, a screenshot of the legs here. And then another product that I found that was pretty similar to what we're trying to build at the most affordable price range is this. And here's an array of all of the other examples that you could purchase. Okay. The one that definitely takes the cake and the highest price point was this piece. So let's be real, if you're going to pay $600 plus for a coffee table, you're not going to be watching this video on how to DIY your own. So that's fine. With the legs that we bought, let's just round them out to $40. You can really control how much money you want to spend on this. You can buy a plank from Home Depot for $18 for like a standard kind of carpenter wood. You can get a fancy barn wood if you want. You can also just get an IKEA tabletop. A plain white IKEA tabletop is now going for $9. So grab that while you can. If you don't want to do any work to the wood at all and you're okay with that kind of just flat top look, the whole project will cost you $50 at most. Let's get started. We are going to bring our wood to the garage because I really don't want sawdust in my room. If you don't have a garage, please just do it outside. Anything except your room, because you don't want to be cleaning up this, or just be sure to clean your floor. Let's go. So we are outside and I put the board on this table that I have outside. I think you can start to see some of the imperfections now given the lighting. So there are a bunch of scratches at the top. The gloss isn't even really matte across. You see there's a lot of gaps where it's missing or kind of messed up. And on the other side, it's in decent shape, but again, the stain is kind of coming off in some places, which we're going to clean up. Biggest thing is the edges. The stain is completely not even. It's pretty ugly, as well as the corners here. And they're very rough, like not fun to touch. So we're going to soften that out. In terms of what we can use, so I bought this little sanding sponge from Home Depot. It has like this nice little grooved edge. And we can start using this to sand down our piece. So you can also use an electric sander, right? These are extremely powerful and they sand really quickly. So another option you can do if you really want to save some time is rent one. And what is on it is this little sheet of sanding paper that is attached to it. Okay, so if you can't get your hands on one of these, that'd be easier. Some substance is coming off this wood. I'm assuming that's the remnants of the stain. Also, gloves are optional. So I have these little rubber gloves laying around, but it's fine. You'll be fine. Might also not be a bad idea to cover your face so you're not inhaling this. Okay, so I've sanded down all of the first layer, so I try not to see any more like glossy on it. Of course, if you have just a cut piece of wood from Home Depot, you really don't have to worry about sanding off gloss because there will be no gloss on it. So just make sure it's smooth. Next, we are going to wipe down the dust off the actual piece. So now I'm just using a sponge with a little bit of water on it, a tiny bit, because we are going to stain after and I don't want it to soak into the wood. You could also use like a rag or an old t-shirt if you want, but I just have this. So satisfying. Oh yeah. I also sanded out the edges, so just make sure there's no rough edges on your board. As well as for the other side. So this side was definitely treated differently because it was already a lighter color, which is kind of weird, and then when I sanded it, it got even lighter. I'll decide after staining like which side I think looks better, because I really don't mind which one goes on top. And this is why you do not want to sand inside, or you're going to be breeding or cleaning this up. Next, after you have cleaned your board and sanded it, you are going to want to stain and or paint. So what I'm using is this Ultimate Polyurethane. It's an oil-based clear gloss. Now you can get a gloss that has an actual color, but this is kind of what it should come out to be. This color on the box, even though it's clear, it like still has a little bit of a tint. It just doesn't say the tint color. Okay, it is scratch resistant, so that if you are going to be using this for a coffee table, you definitely want something that's going to kind of maintain. So I'm using also just a rag, like a microfiber rag, to rub it on. You could use a paintbrush, but the reason I don't like paintbrush is because it leaves brush strokes on, which kind of annoy me. So I'm just gonna rub it on. All right, so let's do that. Gonna open this baby up. There we go. Got it. Alright. So it doesn't really have much of a color. It's kind of brownish. But inside... Now for this part, technically the stain is inactive chemicals, but I'd rather wear gloves. So I'm gonna wear some gloves. Or essentially, if you don't want to do this, just use the part of the rag that will not touch your hand. So glossy already. So I stained the other side. So here's the two sides, and this is the side that I think I'm going to use because I just really like the way the color came out. If you're using just a wood that's uniform, you shouldn't have this problem. But you can see how much darker this side is, and it's just not as even as I'd hoped. The brighter side in this case looks a little bit better. So that's it all glossed up, and we should be good. So note about drying time, make sure you read what's on the bottle. This particular stain, I think I have to leave it overnight, so just make sure to read your stain. Also be sure to close it real tight so you can use it again. This will do. So I'm going to place this somewhere safe for now. I'm going to check on it in a couple hours and see how it looks, and then once it's done, we'll start putting on the legs. Here you will rest until we are ready to check on you. Well, hey you. Decided to collect. I came to collect the board, and it's looking pretty good. Not too shabby. It's nice and smooth, not as splintery as it used to be, especially the edges. And then let's check the back. Also not bad. Yeah, this isn't the side I'm going to use up top anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Like, you can see, I kind of messed up the stain here, or I sanded a little bit too much in some places, but that's alright. Let's bring this baby inside, shall we? So here she is, and I'm really liking the way the color came out, because before it used to be a lot darker, but I like how there's like natural light and dark elements now. Much darker, much less pretty. Alright folks, it's assembling time. I have my legs here, and all of the screws. I put it on one side. That seems alright. So I do want to make sure they're even. So I'm just going to do caveman method. It's from my pinky finger to my front finger. And one finger from the edge. Perfect. Yeah, I think it's perfect. So what I'm going to start trying to do now is I have the screws laid out. And I have a screwdriver. And I'm just going to jam those suckers in. And I don't have a drill. So let's do it. And 2 blisters later, you have it. All right, moment of truth. Ta-da! Nice, yay. As for the stress test, and that's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Come hang out next time with Nadia for the next DIY project. Be safe.